enough already.
But if you have a pet that actually does get traumatized by this, there are some things you can do to help out. They said things like keeping your pets in a quiet room, make sure you draw the blinds, maybe turn on the radio to muffle some of the noise. They said don't underestimate the skills of a scared dog, because there have been so many accounts of dogs pushing open doors, digging under fences. When they get scared,
Oh, wow.
they're going to freak out. So lock them in a really secure place that's quiet and dark, and that should help. They said don't try to console your pets during the fireworks. I'm like, seems a little weird. They said that it'll make your pet realize there's something to be scared of.
If you like pet
If
them and
you try to
go, poor
comfort them and say,
baby,
hey, baby, it's okay.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
know that they think that on that many levels personally. But anyway.
my dog eats poop. I don't think he
Exactly.
thinks on that level.
Make sure your pet has ID tags and a microchip, really important just in case they do get out.
Yeah.
And if you have a pet that's just overly anxious, talk to your vet. They may have something they can give them to help them calm down a bit and maybe not be quite so freaked out because they don't like the boom boom.
And if all else fails, just open the Caleb app, put the earbud pods in their ears, and have them sit back and relax.
Positive, encouraging K-Love welcomes you and the entire family to a podcast adventure.
Hey families, welcome to this episode of Adventures of the Star Keepers.
The Adventures of the Star Keepers, an exciting biblical podcast from the Kids Ministry of Elevation Church.
And if all else fails, there's one thing that always makes stuff happen.
What's that?
Push the big red button.
Every episode contains fun, action-packed tales while helping kids learn about biblical topics. And at the end of each episode, there are questions to help you have meaningful, faith-based conversations with your kids.
What are some things God has given you that you can use to be generous towards others?
The Adventures of the Star Keepers. Listen now at accessmore.com or on the Access More app. Access More. K-Love, inside the music.
Hey, this is Blanca, and this is the story behind my song, Even at My Worst.
Mattresses plus up to 60 months interest-free. See store.
JSN Radio, 18 and a half minutes now past 4.
Panera favorites are hot and ready to serve for dinner. Taste our creamy mac and cheese served in a crispy bread bowl. Or the classic bacon turkey bravo featuring our signature sauce. How about our new mouth-watering chipotle chicken and bacon flatbread pizza? These and other favorites are waiting for you. Order dinner tonight for delivery or pickup. Only at Panera. Availability and pricing may vary.
I need tech that can make me as productive in my home office as I am at my office.
It's possible with Staples Connect. I need a fast new PC so I don't miss a beat in college. Staples Connect makes it possible with the tools you need to work and learn. And now get up to $150 off select PCs like the HP Pavilion laptop with Intel i5 processor. Explore what's new at your local Staples or staplesconnect.com. Staples Connect, the working and learning store. N7322.
Apply today at Kelly Sir.
But it's not enough just to learn the plan. You've actually got to do it.
Limited time only. Or for a dude.
Stage from
That will fit any mood.
The date for the grand opening of the Estill County Area Technology Center, July 23rd at 2 p.m. at 49.
Authority now, 859.
Well, you in trouble. Oh, look, you need a lawyer. When you're sick, you don't just need a medical man, you need a doctor. When criminals are coming after you, you don't just need a penal code, you need a policeman. In other words, you need the visible man.
Foundation. All things considered, I must. Foundation. It's here to stay. Over half of men decided to shave their hair off completely, and they're loving it. 61% of guys have tried new hairstyles, And 40% of guys during the pandemic decided to grow a beard. Your hair, you let it grow longer, right? You used to have it really, really short.
Yeah, but that's kind of post-pandemic.
Oh, really? It wasn't during?
Yeah, during. I don't know if you remember, but in the front end, when
You
no one was going anywhere. No one was going out. I mean, we were all locked down, remember? And couldn't go to a barber shop, couldn't go anywhere, and my hair was getting ridiculously long in the front. I mean, like, way long. Yeah, I cut it myself once, and it looked okay. I cut it and didn't tell you guys, and nobody said anything, so I thought, oh, it must look okay. I cut it again, and it wasn't that great, and I told you guys, and then I cut it again, and it was awful. The last time I cut it, I looked like the guy in Operation. The guy that you're operating on.
I didn't notice it at all. That's funny.
It was bad.
My husband kept going to his barber through the entire pandemic, and they've gone from...
Remember the reopening, it's like, okay, we're opening bowling alleys, tattoo shops, and barber shops. Those were the first businesses that reopened.
Like, he must have gotten a haircut right before we shut down, because he never got long out. I'm begging him to grow his hair long, and it never even got longish during the pandemic. But anyway,
maybe he was cutting it himself and he didn't tell you.
No.
Yeah, well, if he didn't tell you, how would you know?
Because he wouldn't be very good at cleaning up the hair and couldn't find it in the bathroom. The greatest hits of all time.
You know, work that.
WS.
That's not going to be.
I realize the Johnson & Johnson.
We're going to talk.
Notice that
New PC. They could find me there.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, correct.
So you don't have any other money.
Yeah, I've got an emergency fund.
Youth is directed, keep out of reach of children. Hi, I'm Brooke Burke, and I have a question for you. Do you ever consider just how important your feet are? They're...
You heard it, homie, now you.
At this point, Dr. Jill Weatherhead.
Journey to the...
In the absence of more information at this point, so about this, and she said in the absence of any data on that she will continue to wear masks herself indoors in public space.
Distinctly about her what?
That she
Feels like there's no it. It feels like there's no...
World's in his head.
Once you turned on her. In a community like...
Consider masking.
Starts with a broken childhood. You want to take us all the way back when your mom and dad divorced?
Yeah, man, it's so true that we all have a story. Every listener you have. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is the Message version of Romans chapter 4, where it says when Abraham entered into what God was doing, that was the turning point for him. It was a God story. And I love that. And so when I look back on my childhood, you know, when I was 11 and my brother was 15, our parents sat us down and that's when they told us they were going to get a divorce. And that's when our story kind of really began to change very rapidly. And so my brother, who was 15, ended up starting to raise me at that point because our parents moved to two different cities and we basically stayed there.
So you guys were living alone, is what you're saying.
We were.
So you have this experience where mom and dad sit you down and say, hey, listen, the world's about to change. And then you guys basically wind up on your own.
Yeah. And what's crazy about it is we've never even seen our parents fight. So we had no idea this was coming. And so they sat us down, told us that. And my dad moved to Houston. My mom moved to Nashville. And that's when my brother had already just started a landscaping company, mowing yards. And so we had to grow that. and that's how we ended up making a living. Our parents would check in on us from a distance, but man, I give my brother a lot of credit for walking us through that. When I was 16, my brother got married and moved to Dallas. And somehow, miraculously, I continued to live by myself after that, stayed in school, continued to run that business. And that's how we took care of ourselves. And so, yeah, it was a crazy God story. When I look back on it, I'm like, can't even say that I was on fire for God or even following God at the time. But that's what I love about the story that God's given us to write, is I can reflect back on that. And even in the midst of that crazy hard time, God was there. But I didn't even recognize that until years later.
Part of the story is you actually chose to live with your dad. You wound up living with Dad. You and Mike did. Your sister actually went and lived with your mom. Little situation in this whole process was they didn't work out in the new step family. Dad decides he needs to move out. Your dad says, hey, you guys can have a home. So here, your brother Mike's 15, you're 11. Your kids. I was sitting back as I was reading the story, I was thinking about, where'd the food come from? How did somebody help them with homework? The life lessons. And by the way, who talked to John? Who talked to Mike about what happened and who they are? Yeah, you guys were resilient, and you never felt like you weren't not going to make it because you were pretty tough kids.
In fact, when we were going through this with my family, I even said that. My perspective was, I don't even know where all that stuff was coming from. But, my brother he was really taking care of me and really raising me. It's so crazy is that we can grow up in a world like that and not even realize it's not normal. So to me, this dysfunctional family, to me, felt normal. Like, I didn't really know the difference because I had never really seen it different. And so, when my dad actually got remarried and ended up moving with this new family, it just became that we had to get up at daylight. When we started mowing yards, my brother would take me, drop me off to school. I'd go to school throughout the day. He would go to school, pick me up after school. We'd go work till dark. We just started all over every day. And that just became our life and our cycle. And that totally was all normal at the time.
Well, we are seeing that there's ATV accidents that come with head injuries. Bike accidents can. That's why the helmet is just so key, and it needs to be a habit with our kids. Like, from the moment they're able to get on a bike, they have to learn that helmet is part of the bike, and it's essential equipment every time you're on it. And that's really what we need to do to keep our kids safe. It's unfortunate. There is no cure for brain injury. We have no medication. We have no other treatment. It's all supportive care once it happens. And so if it's severe enough, somebody might not recover fully from the brain injury. And so the only key, we just have to prevent them to manage this disease.
My thanks today to my friend and colleague, Dr. Roger Humphreys, Professor and Chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine at UK, for talking with us about summer fun and ways of avoiding a trip to the ER. For more information, visit our website at wauky.org. With health news you can use, I'm Dr. Greg Davis on medicine.
Dr. Greg Davis is a forensic pathologist at the University of Kentucky who volunteers his time to cover important medical news for our community. This program is available as a podcast at wuky.org. 429 at 91.3 WUKY. Looking at a chance of showers, possibly a thunderstorm later tonight, a low of 71. Showers, possibly a thunderstorm, well, not even possibly. Going to happen tomorrow with a high near 78. 30% chance of showers on Friday with a high, again, kissing the 80-degree mark. It's 83. You're listening to 91.3 WUKY's All Things Considered.
Today, we're
going to get a chance to hear them Saturday night at the Barnyard in Sharpsburg, Kentucky. I asked you before we went on the air, how does it feel to play at a venue called the Barnyard? And I think it was a very fair statement that you made about just getting out to play anywhere is good enough for you.
You got it. But you weren't wrong. I mean, there's maybe only one crazier name than the Barnyard, and that would be the Outhouse.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to definitely getting up there and playing music for the country music fans up there. And again, it's just good to be out playing country music, live country music again. It's good to be anywhere doing that.
The Barnyard again in Sharpsburg. You have to do what I did to get there is pull the beautiful map of that. It's less than an hour drive from Clemson and less than 2 hours from Cincinnati. Probably at least a couple of hours.
Effective urinary tract health product.
606 triple.
On the banks of
almost
of humanitarian
aim to help
Our
military advisor and looting
The Youngtown.
GA and check.
It's been
What two colors?
yeah, just start putting 86.
Your hometown station, WSKV 104.9 FM, is your local resource for important notifications, advisories, and alerts. From water and traffic issues to severe weather warnings, WSKV, with the help of emergency management and local agencies, will keep you informed when it matters the most. Thank you for listening to Pickup Country 104.9 FM.
your
Kentucky Power's 165,000
thing. All 6 of Lexington's public high schools are continuing their school meal program over the summer. The bags that students receive consist of enough breakfast and lunch meals to last about a week. Jamie Wallace runs the food service at Bryan Station High School. He tells LEX 18 he believes a child without food isn't going to be paying attention in school by the end of the day.
There's nothing like seeing smiles on faces and going home and feeling like you've done something, even just a little bit of something.
The free meal program will continue for at least another school year. And now taking an extended look at your region's weather forecast, including the counties of Carter, Bath, and Montgomery. Tonight, a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise increasing clouds with a low around 69. Tomorrow, a 100% chance of showers and thunderstorms with a high near 76. Thursday night, an 80% chance of showers and possibly a thunderstorm with a low around 63. Friday, a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise partly sunny with a high near 77. Friday night, mostly clear with a low around 56. Saturday, sunny with a high near 75. Saturday night, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Independence Day, sunny with a high near 82. Sunday night, mostly clear with a low around 62. Monday, sunny with a high near 88. Monday night, mostly clear with a low around 66. And for your Tuesday, sunny with a high near 87. It's currently 81 degrees here on the campus of Morehead State University. For WMKY News, I'm Keneally Roberts.
Alert comes from this station and from Little Passports, offering activity kits to keep kids engaged this summer. They'll explore France and Japan and build a volcano and submarine from the kitchen table. More at littlepassports.com. From Notarize, for getting documents notarized online via computer or smartphone 24/7. Notarize connects individuals and businesses to a commissioned notary for an online transaction at notarize.com. And from Americans for the Arts.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro in Washington.
And I'm Elsa Chang in Los Angeles. Former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld has died. He was 88. Rumsfeld served as Defense Secretary under two separate Republican presidencies, under Gerald Ford in the 1970s and under George W. Bush from 2001 to 2006. In his second stint at the Pentagon, Rumsfeld was instrumental in leading the country to war, both in Afghanistan and in Iraq. He was also, for a bit, well known for his many aphorisms, including this one in response to a reporter's question about U.S. intelligence on whether Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there's some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Never forgot that one. For more, we are joined now by NPR Pentagon correspondent Tom Bowman. Hi, Tom.
Hey, also.
So, Rumsfeld has a complicated legacy, right? He was unrepentant about the need to go to war, both in Afghanistan and in Iraq, conflicts that U.S. forces have only begun to pull out of after 2 decades. How do you think he will be remembered?
I don't think he'll be remembered very well by history. Rumsfeld was an arrogant, brusque kind of guy, and some Republicans on the Hill wanted him replaced early in the Bush administration because he just couldn't get along with folks in Congress. But the 9/11 attacks, Elsa, kind of saved him in a way. He helped carry the wounded from the Pentagon and then became something of a matinee idol. But, I think in many ways Rumsfeld personified the hubris of an era where he was really the architect of Afghanistan and Iraq. His death comes as the forever wars are ending, with nearly all U.S. troops expected to be out of Afghanistan by mid-July. On Afghanistan, there really was no plan once the Taliban was overthrown, and in Iraq, also little post-war planning. And frankly, Iraq is considered by many, I talked with the Pentagon, to be one of the worst strategic decisions in the nation's history. But he remained defiant to the end. Now, he did expand special operations forces, and that's widely seen as a plus.
And let's not forget, Iraq, it was a war that famously began with false information about weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, that's right. And that's why I say he was one of the architects of Iraq. He believed that. He also, one of the things about Rumsfeld was his belief he could do less with more. He didn't support high troop numbers in Iraq or Afghanistan, and he refused to talk to the Taliban. On the troop question, this became a huge issue when Osama bin Laden was suspected of hiding out in the mountains of Tora Bora in Afghanistan. Bin Laden might have been captured, many say, had more troops been sent in, but Rumsfeld said absolutely not. In his ultimate refusal to send more troops a few years later led to his firing and being replaced by Robert Gates. But here's the thing. Gates only recently said, that maybe Rumsfeld was right. The U.S. should have left earlier in Afghanistan in 2002 and really turned it over to State Department and other folks.
I am curious, Tom, during your time reporting on Rumsfeld, how did he come off in person?
He was an arrogant, prickly kind of guy, especially with the press. He once began a press conference by talking about how great the Afghan forces were doing, and I piped up and said, if that's the case, Mr. Secretary, why are there thousands of Americans there? And he said, that's an accusatory way of putting it, and didn't answer the question.
That is NPR Pentagon correspondent Tom Bowman. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
In 2019, massive protests against Beijing's rule rocked Hong Kong. Now that kind of dissent could be punished by up to life in prison under a national security law. It's been 1 year since Beijing imposed that law in the region of Hong Kong. NPR's Emily Feng looks at how it's been applied and the effect it's had on civil society.
Hong Kong's political opposition was cautiously optimistic in 2019. Despite a crackdown on protests, they've notched a landslide win in local district elections that October. So they set their sights higher. They would poll voters to identify the best candidates for upcoming legislative elections. It was not to be. This March, 47 activists who organized that poll were charged under the national security law for subversion, the largest round of charges under the law.
I'm not totally surprised. I think it's more like putting the Chinese playbook on the Hong Kong situation.
This is Lydia researchers tracking every national security case. She and the Georgetown Center for Asian Law found that so far the law has been used to arrest about 130 people, not just for subversion, but also crimes like collusion with foreign forces or secession. Of those arrested, only about half have been formally charged. So while the absolute number of people being brought to trial has indeed been low, the law has been used to arrest people for a broad variety of offenses. A strategy legal experts like Wong say is designed to scare off all future dissent.
They have very high cash bail, and also they will need to hand out their travel document. You need to dismiss your organization. You need to stay away from social media. You cannot have like public speech.
So far, the law has been used to detain influential academics, to threaten senior lawyers, and perhaps most prominently to charge business tycoons like publisher Jimmy Lai. Last week, the prominent pro-democracy paper he founded, Apple Daily, abruptly closed. The government used the law to arrest most of the investigative outlet's top editors and freeze the paper's bank accounts. This kind of retribution is something few Hong Kongers can shoulder. Here's Lo King-hei. He is one of the few remaining opposition politicians left.
Every time when I do any public speaking, I think very thoroughly before I say something. I'm very cautious of that.
Hong Kong's freewheeling press has also been more quiet after Apple Daily's closure. Newsrooms and their lawyers are struggling to figure out whether talking with sources abroad or interviewing the political opposition could land them in court.
It all was very vaguely defined. A lot of terms in that were left very ambiguous.
Hari Kumar was a senior editor for the Hong Kong Public Broadcaster's English services until last year.
If we publish something or we broadcast something where people are shouting something, is it anti-national to let that go on air? Should we edit out that one? Or if we publish a picture of somebody with a flag saying Hong Kong independence, is it promoting Hong Kong independence? We don't know. We still don't know.
What is clear is that Beijing is calling the shots. Gwyneth Ho is one of the 47 activists who was charged for organizing the poll. NPR spoke to the former journalist before she was charged and detained under the law in March. She says even opposing the law itself could be seen as subversive.
They are saying that you cannot oppose China from imposing any law, that the People's Congress has this right to impose laws on Hong Kong based on national security.
And so, in 2021, Hong Kong has become exactly the kind of place anti-government protesters feared when they took to the streets in 2019. A place with a hobbled press corps, a weakened court system, and where any opposition to Beijing's rule is not tolerated. In short, a place that increasingly resembles mainland China. Emily Fang, NPR News, Beijing.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News. From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Elsa Chang.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. Salvador Viveros of Los Baños, California, was known for the joy he brought to people around him.
My dad always had his smile from ear to ear.
That's Erasmo Viveros, his younger son.
He believed in accountability. He always held us accountable. But he always did everything with a smile.
Salvador was 60 years old when he died in March after a 7-week battle against the coronavirus, one of the more than 600,000 people who have died from COVID-19 in the U.S. He was born in Mexico and moved to the U.S. early in his teenage years. Erasmo says his dad didn't talk much about that part of his life.
The struggles that he faced, the trials and tribulations along the way. All he would say is, I left for a better life, and I found it.
Salvador had a long career at Gilroy Foods, where he advanced into the role of lead mill operator, and he was married for more than 40 years to his wife, Josephine.
He was very lovable, always laughing, joking with me. We laughed all the time because he was always saying jokes.
Salvador loved going on roller coasters, impromptu road trips, and restaurant outings with his families, and the family's weekend barbecues. But when his 2 grandchildren came into the picture...
I've never seen him smile so hard before.
That's Salvador's elder son, known as Salvador Jr. Salvador Jr. says his dad started to focus more on the kids, taking them to the beach or on walks to feed the ducks.
And that smile we've heard so much about? Well, Josephine says he passed it on to his grandchildren.
They look a lot like him. They both carry his beautiful smile. He loved those boys so much. Even though he worked 12 hours a day, he would still come home and play with them. And I'm like, Sally, you need to get rest. Oh, no, let me play with my grandkids.
But she says her husband's spirit also spread outside of their family.
I have people calling me, people crying at the cemetery, telling me how lovable, he was a lovable person. I had this one lady, she couldn't stop crying, saying that he was so polite, he was so nice, that they were dearly gonna miss him. And I said to myself, I know how you guys all feel, because I feel the same.
Salvador also spent a lot of time helping Erasmo fix up his backyard, and on May 26th, when Salvador would have celebrated his 61st birthday, Erasmo put up a table in the backyard with a picture of his dad.
One of the things he was saying is like, I would really like to have a little gathering here in the backyard that we finally finished. And so in honor of him, put up a little table with a picture and a candle, and remembered, everything that we did together in that moment. To share space with him.
Salvador Jr. says he will host a nice barbecue in honor of his dad, Salvador Viveros, once the family can gather again.
A 100 years ago this month, a new voice was heard on phonograph players around the country. Ethel Waters was a young singer making a name for herself on the cabaret circuit, but she'd yet to really break into the recording industry. White-owned labels like Columbia, Victor, and Edison recorded very few black artists, and when they did, they were often limited to novelty songs or minstrel music. That's when a young man named Harry Pace arrived in Harlem and launched the first major black-owned record label in the United States. His mission was to uplift the race through music. In a two-part story, airing today and tomorrow, Radio Diaries brings us the story of Harry Pace and the rise and fall of Black Swan Records.
Yes, 1, 2. Okay. My name is Peter Pace. I'm the grandson of Harry Herbert Pace. Harry Pace was a man of confidence, and he had a shrewd business sense and entrepreneurial instincts. He was very politically active. He was